Mental health is extremely relevant these days, and unfortunately, it's too relevant. One of the issues with it is that nobody ever wants to talk about it. And for that reason, I'm going to talk about it. Ten years ago, my parents divorced, and that set me on a 10-year cycle of anywhere from mild to moderate to severe depressive episodes. And I'm not quite sure the proper terminology, so you'll have to forgive me, a metric fuck ton of social anxiety. And if you've dealt with either of those, you know what I'm talking about. When I got depressed, I would stay in bed all the time. I would just lie on my couch and just, I hate to say it, but I soaked in the depression. And the reason I say soaked is because depression, anxiety, it's all in our chemical composition, right? And when we start getting used to those chemicals, we start getting used to being depressed, it becomes comfortable. It becomes familiar. And I hate having to use those words to associate with depression, but it's the truth. But yeah, I would stay in bed. I would put things off. There were days when I didn't even want to go to school. I couldn't go to the store. There were times when it was really mild, and there were other times when it was rather severe. And I don't want to focus this video necessarily on what I dealt with, but rather the steps I'm taking to overcome it. And notice how I said this is how I'm overcoming depression and social anxiety. I haven't fully overcome it. I don't think anybody can ever really fully overcome it, because there's a certain aspect of depression and social anxiety that is natural. It is natural to sometimes get depressed. It is just like it's natural to sometimes get anxious. But some of us have dealt with depression and anxiety in such a way that it becomes disruptive in our day-to-day lives. And before I go any further, I want to say that this is advice that I'm sharing based on my personal experience. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to react to different treatments differently. But a lot of people in my life, because I'm so vocal about mental health, have asked me for advice on how to get started on overcoming these mental illnesses. I started this overcoming depression journey earlier this year on New Year's. I woke up and I decided that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that I wanted to get better. And in fact, I made a decision that I was going to get better. And that's a great first step for anybody. It's just deciding that you can, number one, and believing that you can. If you can do both of those things, that is already half the battle, believe me. The biggest thing that helped me was therapy, but not just any therapy, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy. You'll sometimes hear that abbreviated as CBT. It's a very specific form of therapy that lets you employ specific tactics that help you silence those negative thoughts, or that voice in your head, or whatever's telling you, bringing you down, the voices that are bringing you down, all those negative thoughts you keep automatically thinking. It teaches you how to tone those down, and to a point where you start silencing them and believing the positive thoughts more than the negative thoughts. That's CBT in a nutshell. I've been in it for 10 months almost, and I love it. It's amazing, and it has gotten me leaps and bounds farther in overcoming depression than probably anything else. The second thing is exercise. And I know I'm pulling out the E word. Nobody likes to hear they have to get up and exercise. But just hear me out. When I started running, I didn't run because I enjoyed it. I ran because of the positive physical and physiological effects from it. When you run, you're doing what your body was designed to do. You're exercising, you're staying active, you're moving around. And it releases endorphins, And it keeps your mind sharp. You feel better after you work out. And it's so refreshing to run 3 miles in the morning. And it's just such a refreshing start to my day, at least. Anybody else who runs feels the same way. But you don't have to run to get exercise. Exercise can mean go walk for 20 minutes outside. As long as you're doing some form of exercise to stay active, that's what I preferred. And there were days when I was laying on my couch, completely insecure, depressed, self-conscious. I literally forced myself off the couch. I really had to force myself outside and run just to do something. I wanted to do something other than lay there and be miserable. And that's what I did. Diet. And when I say diet, it doesn't necessarily mean food. When I say diet, I'm talking about everything you're subjecting your body to. So not only do I take extra steps to eat more healthy, pay attention to what I'm eating, putting in my body, but what I'm reading, what I'm watching, who I'm hanging out with, where I'm going to hang out with them. All of those environmental factors play into your diet and they affect your mood. When you consume media, think about what kind of media you're consuming. When you consume food, think about the type of food you're consuming and think about the type of people you're hanging out with. Hang out with people who make you feel good. All of those things work together to help me overcome mental illnesses. I've made tremendous progress especially when I started running. And I've been free of severe depressive episodes for nearly 2 months now, which I am incredibly happy to have gotten there. I still get mildly and sometimes moderately depressed sometimes, but it feels more manageable now. Like I feel like I'm always able to overcome it. But if you rewind previous to 2 months ago, while I was still in therapy and still in the meat of really getting a grasp on my mental health and trying to improve it, I was making progress and I didn't even realize it. And my counselor would tell me that. She would say, "Wow, you did that? That's amazing. You should keep doing that." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, you are making so much progress." But see, when you're depressed, when somebody tries to give you a compliment, your body just physically rejects it. And so I had to force myself to believe I was making progress. And you might have to do the same. You might not. But hopefully you can take these 3 things and start thinking about and taking those initial steps in really bringing your mind back to where it needs to be. I'm going to shift gears just for a second. Social anxiety is quite literally one of the worst things there is, especially when you're a human being and you're designed to be social. When you're social, you're being healthy. When you're not being social and you're being isolated, all those thoughts are taking over and it's unhealthy. The way I'm overcoming social anxieties that I had stemming from my childhood all the way through middle school, high school, when I was picked on, overcoming those is a matter of, it's hard to describe. It's because it's easier said than done. I literally just I have to force myself into situations to exit my comfort zone. Exiting your comfort zone is the key to overcoming social anxiety. It's harder to do when you're in the middle of a depressive state or a depressive episode. When I was depressed, thinking about getting out of my comfort zone felt impossible. Like literally impossible. I didn't feel like I was capable of doing anything when I was depressed. So I had to scale it back. Going way back, if I was in just a bad headspace, I would say, okay, I've been inside all day for the past day and a half. I'm going to get in my car, roll down the windows, and just drive around the block. For me, that was getting out of my comfort zone. Or maybe a step further from that would be, okay, once I did that, I would take it a step further next time and say, okay, I'm gonna go to the drugstore and get some gum. Because that involved human interaction. That involved being in public. That involved dealing with sometimes feeling awkward when you're out in public. I didn't really script this video out. I'm just talking as I would anybody else. But that's probably the best advice I can give without knowing your particular situation better. And I'll recap everything real quick, even though I've probably said it a million times by now. Depression, cognitive behavioral therapy, a good diet, regular exercise. Social anxiety, the number one thing is getting out of your comfort zone. And I can make some follow-up videos if you'd like, just to dive into specifics, whether it's networking as a professional or dating or making friends. I can speak off the cuff about any of those topics, but I'm curious about what you'd like to hear, and I hope this video was helpful for you. Please leave me some comments, let me know what you thought, and I will see you in the next video. Stay cool, keep it real, and as always, don't forget to smile. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.